Okay, so I'm going to be walking through the advanced marketing techniques of building a funnel. And a funnel is pretty much, if you don't know, is the way you take an unknown customer of your product and then make them buy it, right? And that whole journey is called a funnel. So marketing, what you have to understand about marketing is it's mostly psychology. And in psychology, it's mostly about decision making. So heuristics, if you want to look that up. And what you have to understand is rule number one is most people are living calculators. So people always compare. And when they compare, that's a calculation by itself. People balance different things. And in regards to product, people balance the cost of what something costs to their perceived value of it. And what you usually want when you're selling a product is through marketing, you want to increase the value of the product, you want to increase the value of you who, if you're selling it yourself, and you want to increase the value of the company that the product is being sold on or using. So the way you do that is through marketing, but there's a balance that goes between how much you want to charge people and how much they're actually willing to buy based on how much they value the product. So what you do is there's this tipping scale and you just want to keep the cost the same and make the perceived value just heavier and heavier. As in you add in more, people think they're getting a better deal because it's in their favor, right? So the next point I want to talk about is that most people have ADD. We have a shorter attention span than goldfish at the moment. Goldfish have like 7 seconds. We have 5. So yeah. But the thing is, whenever you're making a funnel, if you have a header, you know, you want to use very simple words. So you don't want to use adverbs. You don't want to use different words like ultimate cliches. You don't want to be using that. You want to be very simple, you know, how to make 1 to 2 million a year through real estate. Very simple, easy to understand, you know, or I help do this and this and this. So yeah, keep it short. Take out any redundancies. You don't need any of them. And yeah, take out the adverbs. Yeah, like ultimate, best, super. Things that don't help, just cut it out. People don't have enough time to read everything. They don't care. You know, if you show them a massive block of text, all they see is work. So you want to make it easier for people to make a decision. And yeah, so also another thing you don't do is, let's say if you're selling yourself, you don't want to praise yourself because you want to show it. So you show it through your work. You don't praise, you don't say, I'm the best at this, because it comes off as insincere. Because if you were the best, you wouldn't say it. You know, you don't go, oh, I'm the most handsome person out there, because if you are handsome, you don't go around saying it because, you know, it's not that, like it's a given, you know, so don't do that in your copy, your written words, don't do that either. And yeah, and a lot of other things have to be very ADD friendly. So simple to use. And the next thing I want to talk about is, I have notes here, so I'm just reading from parts of it and then expanding on them. The next thing you want to talk about is above and below the fold. This concept of how whenever you open up a page, a website, because most funnels are like that, you want to have, let's say, 15 to 20 words or less, most likely, subheadline, just explaining a tiny bit further. Let's say about 8 words, because you don't want to go over this, because they see more than this and it's just too much. And let's say a VSL under that. So headline, the headline, the subheading, the VSL, because people are visual. That's another point I was going to get to. We only learned to read very recently. If you're lucky, your ancestors probably started reading 400 years ago, apart like in Europe, right? But we're very auditory, so VSLs do really well. Video sales letters, videos, and we're very based on, we use our eyes a lot, right? So because we use our eyes a lot and we use our ears a lot, two things that we could barely ever shut off unless we're sleeping, and still some people sleep with their eyes open. Yeah, it converts better if you have a VSL. And in this VSL, it also has to help with ADD and be very simple for you to very simple for people to understand. So I'll get into that later. So everything under the fold, the first page that you see before you scroll, could be infinite amounts of data, let's say, of copy, of written words that help out these people that are more anxious or introverted to read. So the copy should be made for readers, but designed for skimmers. So you could do that by highlighting certain words. You could do that by making headings in the copy that stand out. You could have just different contrasts that make it easy for different people just to go through this website and just pick up points. And there's like, okay, my perceived value is higher. It's higher, it's higher, it's higher, until it reaches a certain point where like, okay, this deal is worth buying, and then they commit and they buy. The next thing I want to talk about is that as much as websites are praised for, let's say, desktop and stuff like that, like if you go on a web builder, most of the time the first page they're going to give you in a web builder is for desktop, which is completely wrong, because most people use phones at this stage. Probably the only time you use your desktop, your desktop computer, is when you're working, or let's say when you're watching a movie, and still you could probably use a TV. But during that time, you could be on your phone at the same time. So most of the time you're going to use your phone. So your website should be optimized for your phone. That's it. Very simple mistakes, but people don't do this as much. You could also see this when people, as a side note, when people are making, let's say, pitch decks to get investments, they make them in landscape mode instead of portrait, where it's much easier to scroll on. So yeah, that's just something that people just haven't caught up to yet, that phones and portrait mode is the way to go. So as I talked about before, there's the layout, what's above the fold, what's below the fold, and as well that below the fold, the copy could be long, but it should be long, or there should be nothing there. But you shouldn't put people in a place where they're going to skip the VSL, the video sales letter, and they're only going to not read the text. So you want people to watch the video, or you want people to read. So if you give them you want them to watch the video no matter what. So if you give them a lot of text, they'll scroll down, they'll see a lot of text, they'll scroll back to the VSL, start playing the VSL. If you give them nothing, then they'll just watch the VSL because there's nothing else to do. But if you give them kind of written, short, structured, small paragraphs that are easy to digest, they're going to skip the VSL, and the page is not going to convert as well, because most people don't take in the information as they read it, but they do take in visuals and auditory senses much better. So next I'm going to talk about is whenever you start selling, you have to frame it as, I know people are a lot of afraid, I'm afraid of it too at times, but selling is a good and noble cause. So if you have a product and it will better the world, let's say it's not McDonald's, it's not fatty stuff, you have a responsibility for this noble cause to sell the best way you can and to be a good salesperson, so to better this other people's life. Yeah, because most people are going to buy no matter what, but you have to understand that if you don't sell and your sale comes up short, then you're kind of letting these people buy things that, let's say, aren't going to be the best interest for them, because the companies that do have very good marketing, all this other stuff, a lot of them aren't good for you, and that's it, you know. But that's slowly changing as people are understanding more about marketing, understanding that there's teams behind them, understand that there's massive conglomerates going against their brain every single day. And it's your responsibility to help them make a better purchase than the one they're going to be making either way, because people are going to spend money. Now, if you have a bad product, then, you know, it's not, you probably shouldn't be selling it, because that's going to come to haunt you. The next thing I learned, which is super, super important, is emotional transference. Now, the VSL, the video sales letter, is so good because it is a way to convey a lot of emotion, you know. For example, like music is so great because it puts people in an emotional state super fast. You could have a great day, you're playing some sad, depressing music in the background, you're gonna turn into a sad, depressing guy, or just have that outlook on life, and later on that's gonna affect how you buy things and whatever. But so we're very sensitive auditorily, and we're very sensitive visually. But so the way to transfer emotions is a skill in itself, and we do that through videos. Now, the thing that I learned is that most people, like 80% of people, they are converted through emotion, but 20% of people are converted through facts. So if someone is selling something, like let's say a higher kind of intelligent person, they start pointing out the benefits. They're like, okay, this is this and this, it does this and this. Let's say for a car, it has this horsepower and this whatever. But then they'd only reach 20% of the market, which is very small, because they're kind of selling to their own kind, which is not great. Now, if someone else was selling it, let's say the same car, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is going to get you chicks, this is going to get you higher status, this is just going to do this and this and this, and they have this whole story and narrative that they spin you in and then rile you up and use emotions to convey what you're going to get, and tying those emotions to what you're going to get, or let's say separating them, whatever. You just using your emotions to feel something about this product, they're going to get 80% of the market. So it's better to sell whenever you're selling on a VSL or on a website or anything through emotion. Now, a way that you can see this is, let's say, Apple, right? Apple is kind of a status symbol in some countries. And let's say if you go click it into their website, most of the time it's going to be visuals. There's going to be some information, but it's going to be very little of what actually is, let's say, factual. So they're still going to hit the factual market, and they're also going to hit the emotional market. But there's going to be way more visuals. There's going to be just way more stuff that impacts you emotionally. And the thing is that what sells doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to, because people buy the worst things for them, people buy the best things for them. People are not as logical as you think. So you have to appeal to their emotions, because especially in today, when everyone is pretty much fighting for attention, people are not like fixed on facts. Someone could say a fact, but if it doesn't impact them emotionally, most people are not even going to remember them or use this fact to make their lives better. Yeah, so you have to hit on universal emotions, whether that be anger, inspiration, humor, fear, these cardinal emotions that every single being feels. And that's super important. The next thing I want to talk about is that the opening of the VSL. Now, I forgot how I made this video, but I hope it was energetic. I hope it was useful. I hope it was fast, because that's what you want. You want to talk fast just to get enough points across, be passionate about it, not over passionate, not over insincere. Like, you don't want to be overacting, but you want to bring emotion to these people and give them very quick knowledge of what are they going to watch. Because after a minute, let's say for a long YouTube video like this, it won't really matter after the minute, you know, because you're going to have different knowledge boosts in there that rises their dopamine level. But at the very start, you have to hit them with, this is what you're going to get. It's, you know, this is why, whatever. And just bring them up in emotions. So they're not going to be like watching a mathematical lecture, you know, where people fall asleep to. Actually, if you want to fall asleep, that's a really good thing to watch. So I was given the advice that when you're recording a video, it's good to be pissed off. Now, I'm not pissed off. I'm slightly frustrated because I'm creating this my first video on YouTube. But you have to be passionate about it. And later on, I'm going to give you more tips about it. Also, another rule would be put the best stuff first. Like, this is not like a dinner at, let's say, your mom's house where you get the dessert at the very end. No, you put the dessert, everything there. You put the cake, you put all the cream, and then later on you might put some vegetables somewhere else, because that's the world we live in right now. It's the same thing with the website. Put the VSL there, the stuff that really impacts the person, make it visually appealing for them, and then later on you could just throw in a lot of information. Also, don't babble about this information, but make the information convincing. But still, put all the very stuff, the good stuff at the very front. Same thing with VSL, same thing with, let's say, this video. So I don't know if I did that, but that's still a concept, because people don't have the attention spans anymore. So you just put everything at the front. I used to watch this guy called Theo Vaughn, and he wasn't rich, and he used to live in like Hollywood and stuff. So whenever he was dating, he just could put all his cool belongings at the very front, you know. So when the chick opens the door, she's like, "Oh, watch out for this premium Sopranos series, you know, disc set or whatever. Oh, don't touch the CD, you know, so worth this amount." And that's exactly what you should do. You should put everything that's good and that's gonna hook people at the front, and then later on you could kind of bring them down to like more boring stuff. But you got to catch their attention. You got to put them on a hook and then reel them in. But that hook has to be amazing. Also, I was told that you have to find a balance between improv and pre-written videos. Now, I kind of am doing this now. I have my notes here, but I'm also recording this. It's probably like my 10th recording. But you have to do it like 50-50. That's what I was told. And you should shoot about 15 takes, because after 15, it just gets too boring. Like, imagine you do 15 videos like this, it's going at 20 minutes now. So that will bore you, and it'll also take out the emotion. So there's no emotional transference, as we talked about before, which is a very big deal. Thing that you could do is you could use a teleprompter whenever you're recording stuff on your phone, let's say, or in a video. That just goes over your video and you just read it, but you don't want to be like, oh, I'm scanning things, you know? So yeah. And if that's too hard, you could just cut things in. Now, I'm not going to cut because I want to look back on this video. I want to see, okay, how well was I speaking? Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? So we'll see. But that's another thing you could do. You could record a part of the video and then just jump cut everything, compress them all, you know? Take out the ums and ahs. Another rule that I want to talk about is modulation. Now, there's different emotional dimensions that you could appeal to. And as I talked before, there is, let's say, the cardinal emotions. So whenever you're making a video or whenever you're making anything, you want to hit these emotions, and you could record 4 different videos. Let's say you could record one when you're like angry, you know, like Malcolm X, he's super angry and he changed the world because of it. You could be inspirational, like Tony Robbins, he's like, yeah, let's fucking go, you know. You could be humorous, like any comedian, Chris Rock, or you could be fear-based, put fear into people, anyone on the news, you know. So you can make 4 different videos, VSLs attacking each point in different emotional dimensions, and then see which ones work. Yeah, and then shoot 1 video at a time. Also, this is a good social media strategy. So because you don't want to be, let's say, one-dimensional, you could shoot based on different emotions. So one time it could be talking about some funny, humorous. Another time it could be talking about how the world is burning, fearful. Another time it could be angry about something, you know, anger. And what was the last one? You could be just inspiring people by the way you live, showing off your lifestyle and stuff like that, you know? So those are things that I want to talk about. And I have some side notes. Well, I'm just going to run with. So if you're buying a domain, side note, buy also the misspellings, especially if you're going to buy, if you're going to be a big brand, you know, so people just don't take it and use it to scam people or lots of other different complications. Whenever you're selling, you have to understand that a lot of people are not doing awesome. They might say, oh, I'm doing great. Oh, this is fantastic. But you have to understand that a lot of people are, let's say, lonely. 60% of people pretty much are lonely. A lot of people don't have the life they want. Let's say they're not happy. Some people are too wealthy because that just makes them unhappy. Like 30% of people are on antidepressants. This was even old information. I was on antidepressants, but that's another side story. But a lot of people are, let's say, suffering and they're not doing well. So whenever you're selling and you're trying to make their lives better, you have to understand this. And sometimes, let's say when you're talking to people and they're not going to buy, maybe they're going through some stuff, you know, people are doing now a lot of testosterone, stuff like that. And then if you're going through different cycles of testosterone, you have different emotions. So 1 week you could be selling to someone that's going up in their cycle, and you make the sale the next week, you know, someone else is going down in their cycle, and you cannot make it because they're just too emotional or something's going on in their brain, you know. So people are in different states, and you have to realize this when you're selling. Another thing is with videos, technical stuff does not matter as much as you think. So for example, this video, I don't know what it's shot at, probably 1080p, I hope. But audio is the most important thing because people are auditory creatures, and visuals just don't matter as much, or presentation. Like, yes, you try to get it right, but at the end of the day, audio is king and it's the most important thing. So for example, now I turned off my AC. I'm secluded in a room. I've done all this different stuff just so I get the audio right. And probably I will remove background noise because there's probably some sort of echo at the end of this video. Yeah. And another thing I learned is that you do things in 1 to 2 steps. If you skip a few steps, you skip learning curves and you skip different information. So for example, you can make, let's say if you go from having 0 to 1 million a month, that's gonna completely mess your life up because it just creates weird results where those people just didn't learn the lessons. They didn't gradually learn their lessons, so they're more likely to be influenced by different things. So for example, people who get rich very fast lose it very fast because they just don't know how to keep it. Because they just didn't learn the lessons on the way there. While someone else was taking 1 step at a time, or let's say gets a mentor and takes 2 steps at a time, gets a bit of a shortcut, they won't fall into those traps because they're doing it the right way. I also learned this thing that is that a lot of people, they have different goals that are unrealistic. So for example, they want to be, okay, I want to be a billionaire by then, even though the stats say that people become millionaires on average in 12 years. Obviously, you could do it faster, but you don't want to do it too fast. You don't want to do it in 6 months if you're starting from 0, because that's just going to change. That's just going to make weird results for you, most likely fuck up your life more than not. Another thing that's really interesting is, I always believe this because I see this pattern over and over again, is the temptation to quit something is the time, like the quote is pretty much a Chinese quote. It's like the temptation to give up is the greatest right before you're about to succeed. So when things get tough, you're like, okay, that should even motivate you further because you're like, okay, so things are tough now, they're getting bad. So that means success is right around the corner. So if I could just shell down, be a robot, continue doing what I'm doing, don't give in, don't give up, it's gonna come. Money's drying up, more money's about to be made. That's it. Yeah, and don't be competitor focused, but be product focused. So don't compare yourself to others is another way of putting that. Another way I see that is that pretty much focus on building yourself product, right? Not being a competitor, trying to compare yourself to how someone else is, how their product is to your product, right? So let's say in aesthetically how you look, let's say you want more muscles and stuff for that. Don't compare yourself to how other people have a lot of muscles, right? Compare yourself to what you had before. And that way it could always gradually work. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my first YouTube video. Like, comment, and subscribe. I don't even know what else to say. But thank you very much for watching if you came this far, and I'll be making more. Cheers.